Hi, everybody. This is Matt Mahaffey, the music director of the Mendelssohn Choir of Pittsburgh and the Oratorio Society of Minnesota, and really pleased to be here with you again for our first full week of Candid Conversations. We have an exciting event planned for tonight with a guest vocal artist and also a guest speaker. I'm going to introduce them in turn, but as we started last week, if you're new to this week, welcome. These are, over the next 4 weeks, we'll be having 4 conversations and 4 voice lessons with really wonderful people from the field of choral music and vocal music. But if you'd like to learn more about either of these or any of these sessions, it would be most helpful for us if you would take the time to register at an Eventbrite site, which is going to be put into it's right here below me, and it's also going to be put in the comments of Facebook Live if you're watching there, or YouTube Live if you're watching there. So if you would just take the time to register, that just allows us to communicate all of the information about the coming events with you. So tonight is our first guest is Kira Duffy, soprano. And this is really fun for me to welcome her here tonight. I've known Kira since we were both students. I think she was 17 or 18 when I first met her at Westminster Choir College. And I can still remember very clearly the day that she first sang in front of the entire campus at Westminster in Bristol Chapel, and just really wowed the entire student body. And we thought, wow, a star is born right in front of our eyes. And that has really come true. Kira has enjoyed just a fantastic career as a vocal soloist, also in opera. She's been a favorite of conductors like Pierre Boulez and Dudamel, has sung all over the world, and has now started a new chapter in her life, in addition to her performing, where she's been teaching at the University of Notre Dame in Indiana, and starting a beautiful young family. So without any further ado, I'm going to welcome Kira to the broadcast here. So Emily, if you could add Kira, we would like to say hi to her. Hi, Kira. How are you?
Hi, Matt. Thanks so much for introducing me and making me feel really old.
Great. Well, no one feels older than me. I started coaching t-ball for my 5-year-old son this week, and I think I was the oldest parent by 10 years or so.
Okay, fine. You win. You win.
But welcome. We're really glad you're here. And I do want to remind everybody that you have the ability to ask questions through Facebook Live or YouTube Live. Just add it to the comments, and there will be a time at the end of Kira's voice lesson that we can, I'll come back on and ask her your questions. So feel free to type those in at any time. You don't have to wait till she's done. And so Kira, take it away.
Thanks, Matt. And thank you, Mendelssohn Choir of Pittsburgh and Oratorio Society of Minnesota. I'm really honored to be here, and it is really special for me to connect with my old friend, Matt. There are silver linings to this crazy time we're living through, and reconnecting with old friends and having these kinds of in-depth conversations is certainly an example of that. So I thought today, rather than walk you through a long vocal warm-up, because I think you're all very fine singers, I'm going to turn on my timer so I don't go over time. I thought I would focus on just one specific element of warming up that pretty much every singer I know does, but there seems to be a lot of mystery around, and that is what we call semi-occluded vocal tract exercises. And I have a little PowerPoint presentation. If our technical support could bring that up. We've got some visuals. Well, as they're bringing that up, let's talk a little bit. Oh, here it comes. There it is. And we can go to the next couple of slides. That's one example of an SOVT or an SOVTE. That is straw phonation, and we're going to talk about that a little more. Next slide, please. Right. So we can stick here for a second. So when I say semi-occluded vocal tract exercise, What I mean by semi-occluded, and Jamie Chamberlain alluded to this last week in her warm-up, if you tuned in last week, is a partial closure of the vocal tract. And in this case, for all intents and purposes, when we say a partial closure, we're really referring to the mouth and the lips. And almost all of you, I'm sure all of you have done SOVTEs, lip trills, raspberries, straw phonation, bubble phonation. And again, we kind of know that these are good for us, but I include myself in this. For a long time, I didn't really know why they were good for me, or if there was a good way or a bad way to do them. And then I was really fortunate this past January. I attended a wonderful workshop in New York hosted by Brian Gill, who is a fabulous vocal pedagogue out of Indiana University, Bloomington. And he lent a tremendous amount of clarity to this concept of SOVTEs. The good news is they really are fabulous for singing. And so I hope tonight I can just demystify, clarify around, some of the thoughts behind SOVTEs and why they are so useful and effective. So let's just start with some of the advantages. What that partial closure of the mouth does is it increases what we call, if we want to be fancy, a supraglottal pressure, air pressure. Another way of saying it is it increases a back pressure that reflects at the lips and back to the vocal folds. And what this does is it helps the vocal folds vibrate with less impact, collision, and stress. These are all things that we want to avoid. They also allow you to focus more easily on the upper harmonics in your sound. You can focus on the sensations of creating the sound rather than volume. They're really terrific for navigating register breaks, and they help give you the sensation of increased or at least more steady respiratory support, which allows for more what we call flow phonation. If we could go to the next slide, just a brief PSA on this term, flow phonation. The guy you see on your screen is named Johan Sundberg, and he's really one of the preeminent researchers in voice acoustics, among other things related to voice pedagogy. And he coined this term, the modes of phonation. So he said there are 4 modes: breathy, neutral, flow, and pressed. And he says generous airflow is advantageous for vocal fold function. We can go to the next slide. Right. Here's kind of a definition that's given by one of his colleagues, another preeminent vocalogist, voice scientist, Ingo Tietze, whom I'm sure many of you are familiar with. He's based out of University of Utah. He says that flow phonation could be defined as a production that feels effortless and efficient because ample airflow is passed through the glottis when the vocal folds vibrate. Next slide. Feel very powerful. So why is this important? Johan Sundberg says that we're kind of in the midst of an epidemic, probably not a good reference right now, but a far less consequential one, an epidemic of pressed phonation, this kind of overly muscular, pushed sound. Some might describe it as a driven sound. And this even occurs among very elite, very successful operatic singers. Here's the problem. When we sing with pressed phonation consistently, that can result in premature voice degradation, loss of range, loss of power, more difficulty navigating registers, in other words, more apparent breaks and cracks, unstable vibrato. So what we want is the opposite of a pressed phonation. We want a sense that the air is flowing freely through the vocal folds all the time. Next slide, please. So SOVTs are a great way to access flow phonation, but there are other great advantages too, particularly specific to choral singing. I know that I used to get really fatigued when I was doing a lot of sight reading in the choral rehearsal. SOVTs are an excellent tool to use in that context. Also great for sectionals. If, say, Matt is working with the basses and you're in the alto section and you want to kind of sing along, but you don't want to disturb what he's doing with the basses, sing through a straw. Will save your voice and also will keep you from disturbing them. Great for vocal drills as well. Another advantage, you're not going to drive your housemates or your neighbors crazy. This is particularly pertinent to the times we're living in, right? SOVTEs are wonderful at all stages of the vocal process. They're fantastic for warming up, but they're also great for cooling down after a long day of singing. And they're also fabulous for what we call resetting the voice. So let's say you're in a 3-hour choral rehearsal, you have a 10-minute break, you feel like you've been singing pretty hard, larynx is feeling high, voice is starting to feel fatigued. Do 10 minutes of some slides and glides on a straw or a lip trill. You will feel remarkably better, and you'll have more stamina for the second part of the rehearsal. Also, they help to mitigate a voice that's too breathy, too pressed, as we said, tired, not legato enough. If you're cracking, they're really just kind of this unbelievable tool in our toolkit. Next slide. Right, so there's some basic best practices, if you will, for executing SOVTEs, regardless of which kind you're doing, whether it's lip trill or raspberry or straw, etc. You want to maintain good alignment, of course, follow good breathing practices. So nice, fulsome breaths. You don't need to overload. You want to try to focus the tone right in the front of the face. And we'll talk more about that in a second. You want to monitor for excess tension in the neck and the shoulders especially, and particularly when you're traversing the higher registers. You want to maintain a body position of what we call readiness, the noble posture, particularly as you're descending. So you don't want to kind of let everything collapse as you go down. And you want to be particularly tuned in to the articulators, the lips, the tongue, the jaw. Make sure that they are generally in a state of release when you're executing these. Next slide. Great. So let's start with that ubiquitous SOVTE, the lip trill, right? This is one that what I've learned through teaching and I've seen in myself is that there's kind of like a broad interpretation as to how to execute these. But it turns out that there really is, as I said, a better, more efficient, and therefore more effective way of lip trilling. So the first thing is, when we're lip trilling, we really want to focus the energy of the lip trill right in the center of the lips, which is to say we don't want too much laxity in the corners of the mouth. I see a lot of singers, checking my time here. I see a lot of singers do lip trills like this. You see a lot of puffing in the cheeks. You see a lot of laxity in the corners of the mouth. That's not the most effective way of lip trilling. Instead, we want to feel like the corners of the mouth are fairly taut and that the energy is focused right in the middle. So as opposed to, we want, I hope you can perceive an aural difference. So you can perceive a difference in the sound as well as in the position of my face, right? If you're a person who struggles with the lip trill, you can help yourself by putting your hands on either side of the mouth to discourage too much lip, right? And so this will give you a nice reminder again that we don't want, but we want, I'm focusing on that tone in the front. If you're still struggling, you can also manually pull your lips into what I call selfie face, this kind of face. So you can kind of place them, and that will get you going. Another thing that's useful, I find this very useful, just to continue to remind yourself to have that forward focus in the tone, is a slight pinch of the nose. That will just give you a little bit more direction in the sound. Not, but, okay, next slide. There we go. Okay, so exercise number 1, we're going to do that again, very typical first warm up for lots of singers, the lip trill slide. So we'll check for our good alignment. We're going to take a nice, again, deep-ish breath. You don't have to over-tank. And we're going to do 3 to 4 slightly sustained lip trills on one pitch that's in a comfortable speech range. So we'll go something like this. We'll go. again, I'm focusing on my alignment. I'm focusing the sound energy, as it were, towards the center of my mouth. I'm making sure that I don't have too much lip or too much cheek in the trill. And I'm slightly pinching my nose. I'm just doing it this way. I don't normally pinch my nose this way, just to show you on camera, just to give me that extra reminder. Now we're going to do the same thing. We're going to lip trill, but we're going to do a nice gentle siren. I like to do 3 or 4 of these. The goal is not to go super, super high in your range on these. So we'll do a series. We'll do a series of 3. The first, just do kind of a nice gentle peak and valley, and then you can stretch, go a little bit higher, and then on the third, go to a even higher and lower place in the tessitura. But the goal is not to get to the absolute extremes of your tessitura. It's not how high you go. This is a Steve Smith line out of Northwestern. It's not how high you go, it's how you get high. And I'll just leave it at that. Okay, so again, paying attention to all the things we paid attention to before, we'll go. Again, I'm focusing the tone in the front of the face, making sure that I stay in the noble posture as I descend. And last one. Right. So again, I'm trying to make sure that the quality of the lip trill stays fairly consistent so that I'm not going. We really want a very consistent sort of the mechanics of the lip trill to stay consistent as you traverse the range. And again, very important that we're monitoring that we're not over tensing the muscles of the neck, particularly as we go into the higher register. Checking my time. Okay, moving on, next one. Exercise 2, raspberries. When I say raspberry, I mean the bottom tongue trill. This is one that a number of people really struggle with. I like these because they produce a little bit more resistance, and therefore, when you release the raspberry into tongue tone, you get a little bit more flow. So when we do a raspberry, you'll see people vibrate their upper lip, which I'm actually not very good at. I don't know if you can see that. There's a lot of spray happening here. In order to get the most bang for your buck on a raspberry, you really want just the tongue and the bottom lip to vibrate. I hope you can see that. You can encourage that if you have kind of a rogue upper lip that wants to get involved by making a little mustache with your fingers and just applying a gentle amount of pressure at the top lip. I like to do these on a 1-5-1 pattern, a do, sol, do. What we want to be mindful of when you're doing a raspberry is that the sound doesn't fall back, right? That we don't get. So another way of encouraging that kind of frontal focus, in addition to a nose pinch, which you could use, is you could kind of tap the cheekbones, or you could also kind of make a calling posture with your hands, making sure that you don't compromise the mechanics of your lip and your tongue. This is a really good exercise for higher pitches. It's also really useful for bigger voices. It's also excellent if you're a singer who tends to have a little bit of what we call the Kermit voice. That's a tongue that likes to pull back and kind of help. That's a pressed phonation. We don't want that. So that raspberry, that forward tongue, is really good at releasing some of that tension so that we don't have a kind of knurtle in the sound. But these are great too for slides, octaves, descending figures. I love a good raspberry. Okay, let's move on. Right, bubble phonation. This is one of my absolute favorites, and I'm sure a lot of you do them. So this is an oscillatory SOVT, as opposed to just using a straw without water, and that's called a steady state SOVT, in case you're a nerd out there like me. So Couple of best practices with this. You want to have a water bottle that's about 3/4 of the way full, okay? And then you want the straw, I hope you can see here, you don't want the straw to be too deep. As you sing higher, you can lower the straw to more depth. You'll get more resistance that way. In a more comfortable range, you want to be like 1 to 2 inches below the surface of the water. What you want to find is a comfortable sweet spot where you don't feel like you're having to have excess tension in the neck in order to blow bubbles, okay? So again, what we're going to do is take a deep breath, and then we're just going to kind of sing one comfortable pitch. We'll do this 3 times. Sorry, mirror here. So we'll go something like this. Oh, I recommend a bendy straw. And the reason I recommend this as opposed to a straight straw is this can compromise your vocal tract, right? And give you excess tension. As opposed to the bendy straw, where you bring the straw to you and you can maintain that really good alignment, okay? So we're in a comfortable range. We'll just do 3 sustained tones, slightly sustained. Hope you can see my bubbles here. Couple things here. We want to make sure we're not splashing the bubbles everywhere. That's too much pressure. I do recommend that you have a lid or a small opening in your bottle so you don't get splash all over your face. We also want to concentrate the energy, the sound output, at the place where the lips meet the straw. Again, to encourage a feeling of forwardness in the facial tissues. We don't want that kind of back or connertly sound. I love to do this on a descending 5-note pattern. And again, what I'm focusing on, in addition to the sound being right at the lips, oh, by the way, we don't want any air escaping the sides of the lips. My preference is to plug the nose because then you get the most energy going into the straw, but it doesn't necessarily have to be totally blocked. The plugging of the nose gives you a little bit more, again, supraglottal or back pressure, okay? So we're gonna do some descending 5-note scales, focusing on the consistency and the vibrancy of the bubbles. Ready? So something like this, paying attention to where my straw is, if I can keep it in the frame. Etc., etc. As I go higher, I'm going to increase the depth. Make sure I'm in the frame here. I'm going to increase the depth of my straw. And the reason for that, again, is I get more resistance to the air, which means when I release the straw, I have an even more, I have a more flow phonation on a sung tone. So, yes, let's go to the next slide. Rather than talk about messa di voce, although that's here, that's when these are great. Messa di voce exercises on bubble phonation are great, and that's when you do, I'll show you one, crescendo and diminuendo. I find these incredibly telling. This is a great litmus test because you'll know immediately if you're overblowing in your crescendo or if your air is stopping when you do your diminuendo. So that's a little bit more of an advanced exercise, but I think it's a fabulous one. One thing that I think is really effective using bubble phonation is to start an exercise on the bubble, on the straw, and then release it into a sung exercise. Checking my time here. I know we're almost out of time. Yes, we are. Okay, so this will be the last thing I show you. So what we're going to do is but we're going to start the sol, the 5, on the straw, and then we're going to kind of blow the straw out of our mouth into sung tone. And I'll demonstrate. It'll be like this. If you're feeling really stuck and the air doesn't feel great, lower the depth of your straw. Again, particularly useful at the top. You can even go this deep. And you'll find, again, the deeper the straw is, the more release of air you're going to feel when you remove the straw into sung chom. I think you'll have access to this slideshow over at least the next couple of days, so you can read the rest of the notes. Let's see if you can scroll to the next slide. Right, just a quick note on straw phonation if you're not using water. Same principles as bubble phonation, but you want to imagine the bubbles, right? Again, these are great for choral rehearsals because you're really quiet. I like to use 2 straws at one time. I like to experiment with different straw diameter, and they each kind of induce a different effect and a different benefit. Next slide, and we'll wrap up. Lots of other SOVTEs that are equally effective, humming, NGs, you can read. If you want to know what the paper cup with a hole is, I encourage you to go to voicescienceworks.org, and that will explain. That's a really fun one. Next slide. You can read this. Again, these are great for pre-performance ritual, rehearsals, resetting. I recommend doing 10 to 15 minutes of these, whether it's in your warm-up, your reset, or your cool down. I've got a link there to Kari Reagan, who's a professor out, I think, at University of Oregon. She's written extensively on cool downs, and I think they're very effective, particularly after a taxing choral rehearsal. And I think that's about it. Do we have another slide? Those are my citations if you want to explore more. But thank you so much. I hope that's useful. Not the most interesting thing, although I think they're kind of interesting.
Hi, Kira. That was great. Thank you so much for sharing all that with us.
Oh, you're welcome, Matt.
I will promise all the singers out there that I won't choose the raspberry as my first post-COVID warm-up when we get back together.
True. It's true. But really
that's a good one for in-home practice at this moment. But, well, we're out of time, so we don't have time for questions today. But maybe people could still type questions in the comments, because I know Kira can see them, and if she'd have a little time, she might be able to respond to those herself. But Kira, can we have that PowerPoint? We can put that up on the websites that we have for this as well.
I'd be happy to.
That's a great time to remind people, if you're watching this live and you thought, wait, what did she say? You'll have a chance to go back and view this. Probably the easiest way to do that will be on the YouTube channels of the Mendelssohn Choir and also the Oratorio Society. And those videos will live there for a while. So you can go back and watch all the things that she said over and over again, if you'd like. So Kira, it's really great to see you.
Great to see you, Matt.
Thanks for helping us out today. All right.
I'm looking
great.
forward
Thanks
to
so much. We'll see you soon.
Bye.
So also just wanted to remind folks, if you're just joining now, we have Tessa in the background here. He's going to be coming on in a moment. But if you're enjoying what you see, it'd be great if you would choose to register for this event, which takes place on the next 3 Wednesdays as well. The link to that is right below me, but it'll also be in the comments on YouTube and Facebook. So that just enables us to give you a little bit more information in between. It is free of charge. We do encourage you to invite any of your friends who might be interested in this anywhere in the world to come join us on Wednesday nights. Also, all of the artists that we are using in this series are being paid. And so it would be, if you felt so moved to help support these artistic activities during this unprecedented time, please consider making a donation to either the Mendelssohn Choir of Pittsburgh or the Oratorio Society of Minnesota. You can see the websites below, and you can go right onto those websites, and each one has either a button that says contribute or donate now, and we would love to, we're very grateful for your support in being here, and obviously for any financial support you can provide. Before we bring in Tesfa, Next week, our guest vocalist is Liz Stevens. Liz is a teacher in a voice in New York City. She's another longtime friend of mine and is familiar as an artist to both the members of the Mendelssohn Choir and the Oratorio Society of Minnesota, as she has joined us on a couple of occasions with her wonderful voice and her amazing personality. And I can't wait to see what she offers as the voice lesson for next week. So Liz will be on at the top of the hour. That's 8 Eastern or 7 Central. You can do the math for the other time zones. And then our special guest next week is Ahmed Ansaldua, who will be bringing us information and resources around the repertoire of Latin American choral music. Ahmed has provided lots of resources for you to peruse before the event, and those are available at the websites of the Oratorio Society and the Mendelssohn Choir. And you can go on there and check all that out. Lots of things to listen to and to read about. Or if you just want to come for his discussion, he'll be gearing it for that as well. So if you want a little context before, you can do that. Do a little bit of homework, or you can just join in next week at the bottom of the hour, 8:30 Eastern, 7:30 Central. Great. It is my real pleasure to welcome Tesfa Wandamagneu to the broadcast. Tesfa, I've known for maybe 7 or 8 years when he moved to Minnesota, and he came into Minnesota just set the choral world on fire here. He's just a wonderful teacher, a great friend to so many conductors in this state, and an amazing performer as well. And I've just been thrilled to have the chance to get to know him over the years, and am so grateful for his willingness to come on and to discuss an area of choral music that is probably on a lot of people's minds right now with all of the turmoil going on in the world. And I can't wait to have him share his ideas with us. So without any further ado, I'm going to welcome Tesfa to the broadcast studio. We should get this, maybe we should get this branded or something, Tesfa. It could be like the, the ACDA or something.
The ACDA broadcast studio.
How are you, my friend? Good to see you.
Hey, it's great seeing you, man. I'm doing well in a basement in Northfield. I got 3 cats running around here, so I'm letting you know if you see a cat jump on the screen at any point, we got 3 of them. There's only so much room you can have. We need a bigger house to have them spread out.
Well, I'm about 20 miles north of you up here in Inver Grove Heights, Minnesota, up Highway 3, and it's a nice night outside. So when we're done here, we'll have one of those great Minnesota summer nights, I think. So
absolutely.
So, all right, Tesfa, take it away.
Well, I would love for us to just start by singing. Let's just use our outdoor voices. As you can see on the screen, I am the co-founder of the Justice Choir movement with Abid Batinas and Ahmed Ansaldua, who you will get a chance to connect with on a future date. And this songbook that's been provided is free of charge. It's for anybody to use. And we're going to sing number 14, Liberty and Justice for All. Now, before we start singing number 14, I think we're going to pull it up on the screen at some point. I want us to think about those words, the Pledge of Allegiance. We can think about as little ones in grade school how we had to recite the Pledge of Allegiance. I remember that as a boy growing up in Memphis, Tennessee, always reciting the pledge at the beginning of the school day. And those words, liberty and justice for all, were set by Dr. Brandon Williams, who's at Rutgers. And I got to tell you, this is a pretty easy sing. I start, you echo me. So I'm going to give us our first pitch. Here we go, y'all. My turn, your turn. So when you see these chocolate fingers pointing at me, it's my turn. When I'm pointing at the screen, it's your turn. We are frightened. We are angry. We are rising. We are hopeful. We are peaceful. We are striving. Won't stop fighting. Won't stop marching. Won't stop dreaming. won't stop loving and proclaiming and believing. Here we go together. Our voices are united, louder than hate. We have gathered here. We've had all we can take. The time has come, you will hear our call. We're fighting for liberty and justice for all. So what I know before we go back and sing that again, I know that y'all just got incredible vocal technique and vocal training that you just had. So I want you to start making transfers, to quote Dr. Clifford Madsen and Dr. Bowers from Florida State University. Transfer what you just learned in that mini voice lesson to your singing here. Support that sound. Imagine that you're blowing those bubbles. Imagine that there is a very even and steady stream of air into the sound. You're supporting the mechanism. Really go after it. Don't be scared. Y'all can't nobody hear you. You on mute. Ain't no reason for y'all to be scared right now. So we're going to take it from the beginning. I want y'all to go after it. And I want you to internalize those words. When we say we are frightened, we are angry, but we are rising. When we think about what we're facing right now in 2020, both of these pandemics, COVID-19 and racism that's been on this soil since the beginning, we are still frightened and we have every right to be angry. So here we go, from the top, using that good technique that you just learned, quote unquote, good technique. We're going to talk about that a little bit later. Here we go. 1, 2, go. We are frightened. We are angry. We are rising. We are hopeful. We are peaceful. We are striving. Won't stop fighting. Won't stop marching. Won't stop dreaming. Won't stop loving and proclaiming and believing. Go out, go for it. Here we go. Our voices. Our voices are united, louder than hate. We have gathered here. We had all we can take. The time has come, you will hear our call. We're fighting for liberty and justice for all. All right, so we have now gotten our first song out of the way. You have sung for liberty and justice for all. Hopefully you believe those words, because the last word of that phrase is non-negotiable. But if you truly believe the words liberty and justice for all, maybe we have to acknowledge something first. So I want to read you an excerpt from Eddie Glaude's new book, Begin Again, James Baldwin's America, and its urgent lessons for our own. Glaude says, American history would be contorted in the service of it, where efforts to resist the likes of slavery or to break the back of Jim Crow segregation would be conscripted into the grand story of America's greatness and its ongoing perfection. Slavery would be banished from view or seen as a mistake instead of a defining institution of systemic cruelty in pursuit of profit. That history would fortify our national identity. And any attempt to confront the lie itself would be sabotaged by the fear that we may not be who we say we are. For white people in this country, quote unquote, America is an identity worth protecting at any cost. And Dr. Glaude, in this book, he opens up, it's called The Lie. The beginning of it unpacks the lie, the great lie that we've all been living. And so we're probably wondering, as you're sitting in your chairs right now, hopefully you are wrestling with what you just heard, because I want to read that last bit again. That history would fortify our national identity, and any attempt to confront the lie itself would be sabotaged by the fear that we may not be who we say we are. For white people in this country, quote unquote, America is an identity worth protecting at any cost. And so as you sing the words liberty and justice for all, I would love for you to internalize what Dr. Glaude has just given us, the gift of lifting the veil of the lie. So I want us to go back to liberty and justice for all. And I want you to sing those same words with the lens that Dr. Glaude just gave us. If you would be willing to put that score back on the screen and internalize the words frightened and angry, hopeful, peaceful, but fighting and marching. All of these active words, these very active words, are encouraging us to get involved. So let's start it from the top. Here we go. 1, 2. This is your first note. 1, 2, 3. We are frightened. We are angry. We are rising. We are hopeful. We are peaceful. We are striving. Won't stop fighting. Won't stop marching. Won't stop dreaming. Won't stop loving and proclaiming and believing. Our voices are united. Our voices are united, louder than hate. We have gathered here. We've had all we can take. The time has come, you will hear our call. We're fighting for liberty and justice for all. I would love to welcome Dr. Mahaffey back on to the screen right now. And I would love for people to maybe share, if you would be willing to share in the live comments. From the first time that you sang the words liberty and justice for all, after hearing Glaude's text, was there a difference for you? Did it add a new lens, a new opportunity for you to truly be transformed by the meaning of the words that you sang? Any kind of commentary as we talk over on the side. It says, David Minick, we sang this song with Voices of Hope, led by Amanda Meyer outside the deportation hearings for Leah Pearson today in St. Paul. Thank you for sharing that story, David Minick. We appreciate you sharing that. So right now, I'm wondering, anybody willing to share? And at that point, Dr. Mahaffey, maybe for you, was there a difference as people start to chime in on the side on the live comments?
Yeah, what I loved is I sang all 3 times and appreciated, hearing you reflect on those words, and that I felt, especially the last time there, I could hear you and I could hear me, and I just loved the way that our voices sounded together there. It just felt we were just more organically connected, even though we're on the Ethernet, just to think about the weight of the words and the way the melody kind of rose to that. I love the way it all came together, and to sing it 3 times I thought was particularly meaningful for me.
Yeah. And one of the things I can tell you, Steve, you put in here, you said I was worried more about the notes. As a part of being in the Justice Choir, there's no such thing as a wrong pitch or wrong rhythm. We want you to sing. This is for everybody. These songs are written in an accessible way, so we can say, if you can make sounds and it's a joyful sound, it's all good for us. It's totally all good for us.
And my dog's here. He's agreeing with you.
Is the dog singing too?
He's right here. He was singing along a second ago. Yeah.
You know, I see. There we go. Victoria. There we go. Commentary adds to the significance of melody. I love that. Thank you for sharing that, Victoria. You know, what's interesting, we talk about passion. We talk about passion. I think that's the perfect segue as we move into our next song. And we talk about passion. We're all inspired in different ways. We all have our own passions. But hopefully now, this is a time for all of us in this country to say our passion has to be anti-racist. Our passion has to be to look to the margins, these people who have been pushed systemically for years and years and years and haven't been acknowledged and haven't been seen. This is our time to do right. So how does this conversation start? As I said, we first must acknowledge that there is and always has been unresolved racial drama and trauma in this country. Maybe your journey specifically could begin by buying Candid's book, How to Be Anti-Racist, or the Reynolds and Candid collaboration Stamped. Now, if you can actually find it on the shelf right now, I would be impressed. And please buy from a Black-owned bookstore first. Yes, it's easier to get it from Amazon. I totally get it. But if you can buy from a Black-owned bookstore, you can be a part of the solution. So thank you for making that choice. But maybe you want to just hear a perspective from a white person. Maybe you want to check out Robin DiAngelo's White Fragility. And I acknowledge that there are scholars out there who are finding her text to be problematic and bullying. But regardless of how you begin, it has to start with you taking a step. It has to take with you taking that first hard but necessary step. And so as we open up to Justice Choir Songbook number 22, 1 Foot Lead with Love, this is our roadmap. This is our roadmap. If you look at the text right here, Melanie DeMore is an incredible activist based out on the West Coast. And she gave this as a part of Justice Choir Songbook Volume 1. And I can tell you, as the kids say these days, it's a bop. It is a bop. 1 Foot Lead with Love. Now, you can see on the screen that it's an A minor. You can probably tell that I am not a bass or a baritone. I cannot sing low A well. I can barely sing low C well. So we're going to do C minor, just FYI. Here we go. You got, that's our first note. And don't feel afraid to, I want to try something. Steve Law mentioned earlier, he was like, I was worried about the pitches and rhythm. So we're going to try a different way this time. I'm just going to start singing. And when the Spirit leads you, when you feel comfortable enough to sing, then you join. Because as we said earlier, there is no such thing as a wrong pitch or rhythm. So this is the go. You gotta put 1 foot in front of the other and lead with love. Put 1 foot in front of the other and lead with love. You gotta put 1 foot in front of the other and lead with love. Put 1 foot in front of the other and lead with love. Don't give up hope. Don't give up hope. You're not alone. You're not alone. Don't you give up. Don't you give up. Keep moving on. Keep moving on. Now let's stop because I already know what happened just then. I already know what happened just then. That high note, y'all got scared. And I already told y'all earlier, don't get scared. It ain't that high. It's just G4. It's just a G. It's just a G. So as we move into that moment, use that chest voice. As we talk about, quote unquote, good tone quality, we're not talking about good tone quality. We want you to sing. The word good is problematic, and that's probably another 3-hour lecture that we can have. Singing, we need you to have a visceral sound, an honest sound, an open sound, a committed sound. So let's try verse 1 again, that last bit where it says, don't give up hope. And I want you to go for that high note. Go for it, y'all. Don't give up hope. You're not alone. You're not alone. Don't you give up. Don't you give up. Keep moving on. Keep moving on. You got to put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. Put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. You got to put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. Put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. Lift up your eyes, lift up your eyes. Don't you despair, don't you despair. Look up ahead, look up ahead. The path is there, the path is there. You gotta put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. Put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. You gotta put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. Put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. I know you're scared, and I'm scared too, but here I am, right next to you. You gotta put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. Put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. You gotta put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. Put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. Don't give up hope. Don't give up hope. You're not alone. You're not alone. Don't you give up. Don't you give up. Keep moving on. Keep moving on. You gotta put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. Put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. You gotta put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. Put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. And lead with love. And lead with love. Harmonize. And lead with love. And lead with love. Last time. And lead with love. So I want us to wrestle with some words from here. And typically when we present these in Justice Choir events, I like to focus on verse number 3. I know you're scared and I'm scared too, but here I am right next to you. As a black man who grew up in the Deep South, even though people consider Memphis to be the Mid-South, it has a very Deep South feel, if you know what I mean. And I am currently 40 miles away from South Minneapolis, where they brutally murdered George Floyd. But I will tell you something that gave me hope. I saw a bunch of scared white folks next to a bunch of scared BIPOC folks in the streets of Minneapolis and Denver and Seattle and cities all over this country, standing side by side, screaming and protesting and singing and dancing for the words liberty and justice for all. It took people to take that bold first step to lead with love, meaning you have to be willing to sacrifice. Are you willing to leverage your privilege, leverage your access, leverage your platform, leverage your stability, leverage your comfort to go stand with your black and brown and indigenous siblings in cities all over this country? Are you willing to do that? Because if you are, we are waiting for you to take that first step. And I saw so many people join hands, even during a time of COVID-19, in these streets and cities across the country, doing just that. So you might be thinking, okay, we got these cool songs from the Justice Choir songbook. That's cool, but how can we do it in our choir setting? And I teach a class at St. Olaf called Music and Social Justice. And we'd love to excerpt the first 2 chapters of that book. As somebody who spent years in media, it will make sense why. I'm going to read you a short quote from Robin DiAngelo's White Fragility. She says, "We are socialized into these groups collectively. In mainstream culture, we all receive the same messages about what these groups mean, why being in one group is a different experience from being in another. And we also know that it is, quote unquote, better to be in one of these groups than to be in its opposite. For example, to be young rather than old, able-bodied rather than have a disability, rich rather than poor. We gain our understanding of group meaning collectively through aspects of the society around us that are shared and unavoidable. Television, movies, news items, song lyrics, magazines, textbooks, schools, religion, literature, stories, jokes, traditions and practices, history, and so on and so on. These dimensions of our culture shape our group identities. And as I said, spending years at American Public Media here in Minnesota, I can say those lines from DiAngelo's book make the first 2 chapters worth the read. Now, the song that you're about to hear as we get ready to pull up this video, 2 of our country's leading arrangers of spirituals and folk songs, Stacey Gibbs and Sean Kirchner, a black dude and a white dude, came together to create a conversation-starting composition. Now, I'm going to give you the words and just leave it there. No color can come between us, no shade to be thrown, no tone be taken to demean us, no hue of hate to be shown. No color, no shade, no tone, let me be transparent with you. And then they go on to say, more love is our intention. Stop. Did we forget to mention that we are more alike than different? United, we take a stand, ignited with hand in hand to build a band of harmony. No time to wait. Don't hesitate. No color. Now, lots of people who are interacting with that text for the first time find it to be healing, unifying. It could probably even be defined as easy listening. And the easy listening energy of that text, face value, you know what? I can get down with saying united we take a stand, ignited with hand to hand to build a band of harmony. Yo, I'm down with that. I'm totally down with that. But there are some of us who immediately begin to question the motive of the text. Is this text asking us to be colorblind? So our students had the incredible opportunity to talk about their identity through the semester and how many folks with darker skin have experiences that need to be heard and felt and processed. Gibbs and Kirchner came to the campus and spoke with the students and was a part of those conversations. And this conversation is up to us as creatives and choral leaders to interrogate the text further in the context of all the music that we sing to help us navigate this type of dialogue. So I would love for us to just play this video from the beginning and interact with a white student sharing an excerpt from DiAngelo's book, but then a black student sharing their identity and what it feels to live in their black skin.
An excerpt from Robin DiAngelo's book, White Fragility, Chapter 1. We don't see ourselves in racial terms. I'm a white American raised in the United States. I have a white frame of reference and a white worldview.
Yes,
and I move through the world with a white experience. My experience is not a universal human experience. It is a particularly white experience in a society in which race matters profoundly. a society that is deeply separate and unequal by race. However, like most people raised in the US, I was not taught to see myself in racial terms, and certainly not to draw attention to my race or behave as if it mattered in any way. Of course, I was made aware that somebody's race mattered, and if race was discussed, it would be theirs, not mine. Yet a critical component of cross-racial skill building is the ability to sit with the discomfort of being seen racially, of having to proceed as if our race matters, which it does. Being seen racially is a common trigger of white fragility, and thus, to build our stamina, white people must face the first challenge, naming our race.
Between us, no shade to be thrown, no tone be taken to demean us, no hue of hate to be shown, no color, no shade, no tone. Let me be transparent with you.
So as we skip ahead, so you get a feel of it as we skip ahead. You get a feel for the piece. Sorry about the quality, but we get through the piece and we end it. And just for time's sake, we don't have a lot of time. I'm not going to play the next 4 minutes. But if you want that video, we can get that video to you so you can see it in its entirety. But that young man that you see frozen on the screen right now, his name is Eugene Sandell. And he comes down and he shares a reflection about his experience.
You're so white. Wait, you're white? What kind of black person dresses like that and talks like you do? No one. You just want to be white. Welcome to high school. No, better yet, welcome to my life. Have you ever experienced racism? Probably not. I might have said no, had it not been for this beautiful black body God put me in. Racism isn't just burning a cross in front of a black man's home and marching around in a white hood anymore. Racism, like any other virus or plague, has adapted to its environment. Racism is having people tell you you need to work harder for something and turning around to Jim and telling him he's got it because he's a natural. Racism is being reprimanded for the smallest of actions when Becky can get away with 10 times worse and be praised as a saint. And I don't mean once, I mean over and over and over again until you realize it's not you. The thing they are reprimanding and criticizing is your skin. Racism is being told you're too black to be white and too white to be black. All this, and yet still, I see the gray. The intersection of the two, a place where I can belong and become in community with other like-minded individuals. They are the ones who see and understand the struggle, not always people of color, but people who take the time to learn different cultures and to see that regardless of appearance, people are people. But that takes time. It's easy to be racist, bigoted, and ignorant because that takes a lack of effort and a large amount of carelessness. But to truly see takes time and intent and purpose. It means you have to be real. Real like our history. Real like my stories. And real like the struggle. Then there will truly be no color.
And so, thank you. As you internalize Eugene's powerful personal story, I want to reference you to Janet Helm's stage of white identity development. And so often people are entering this conversation at the contact point, where you hear conversations where people say, I don't see color, or talking about racism is it brings disunity, or the belief that racism is caused by talking about race, or the belief that, you aren't racist if you don't purposefully or consciously act in a racist way. And so many people enter the dialogue at that point, and they continue to grow. If you need to learn more about that, Janet Helm's White Identity Development, great articles out there that you can read on it. But we have to move on from that beginning contact stage. It feels like we've been living in that contact stage for a while, y'all. It feels like we've been living there in this country for a while. And we want to be sure that we can move forward and move towards that Baldwin's America that Dr. Eddie Glaude Jr. references in his book, Begin Again. And I want to go to a question right now. Maggie Johnson, you said, Tesfa, we know you do work with a ton of students. Do you see students, young people dealing with this differently from older folks at all? That's a big question. There are people who are, I would say, without a doubt, young and old, dealing with this in the exact same way. It all depends on comfort. There are a lot of young people who are not interested in having this conversation at all because they're afraid. They're afraid of the repercussions. They're afraid of the backlash. And I won't sit here and pretend that there won't be. Like, I want to make it very clear that the repercussions and backlash it's real, y'all. Just like Eugene just said in his commentary, the struggle is real, and this work is not easy. It says, Mary Beth Salama, it's what we haven't done that has permitted the system to stay stuck in this terrible place for so long. Mary Beth, I 100 agree. The people have said silence is violence. And our very first Justice Choir event, Nakima Levy Armstrong used the phrase white silence is violence. And I just want to say silence is violence. If we all, and I talked about this to the lady who interviewed for the Pittsburgh story, is like, listen, I might have black skin and I came from the city streets of Memphis, but I'm privileged. Like, I understand and acknowledge my privilege that I'm sitting here in a basement with studio lights and blue microphones and iPads and MacBooks. And I got this St. Olaf shirt and I work at the Disney World of college, and I understand my privilege is real. So if I'm not actively working to connect from my past and rectify the issues that those folks in my city of Memphis are still facing years later, that means I'm full of it. Meaning, if I feel like I've gotten so high and mighty in my work that, oh, well, I'm Black and I'm the victim. Yeah, I'm facing a lot of stuff, but I got to keep it real, y'all. There's some people out there dealing with some stuff that I can't even imagine. And it's really, 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 really important for me to do that work. And it's important for you to do that work as you acknowledge your own privilege and understand that this is a permanent state of being uncomfortable. All of us have to live in that permanent state of being uncomfortable and getting our hands dirty and getting our feet dirty, getting bloody, get the tears have to be there. They have to be real, y'all. So you're probably saying, all right, I'm fired up. Maybe I'm gonna go do something. So how do we engage with those communities? And man, I can have another 2-hour conversation on this question. Folks love to plan a season, program music by a marginalized group, preview the season to their mostly white audience, and then reach out to said marginalized group to quote unquote engage with the community. Look, I don't know about y'all, but I learned the order of operations back in junior high. That order is all kinds of messed up. Look, it ain't right. We have to do better and be very intentional when we are creating these types of collaborations. In Donna Kuhn's book, Invitation to the Party, she provides this golden nugget. She says, I define audience development as the cultivation and growth of long-term relationships, firmly rooted in a philosophical foundation that recognizes and embraces the distinctions of race, age, sexual orientation, physical disability, geography, and class. Here it comes, y'all. Here we go. Audience development is also the process of engaging, educating, and motivating diverse communities. Now, Kuhn goes on, y'all. She didn't leave it there. She didn't leave it there because the tendency is to just basically let that hang because you go into it and say, all right, I got that. But then she goes on to talk about audience development. She says audience development, or what we should say is collaborative development, is the merging of techniques to make connection with your audience's hearts by demonstrating the value of incorporating the arts into their lives. But then she goes further. You can say we want to put the arts into their lives because people are saying that, oh my God, classical music is so great. It's really touching all of these marginalized communities. Yeah, cool story, bro. Yeah. But she goes on. She pushes it further. I'm not saying that doing that music is bad. I'm saying that's a step. I'm also saying that cultivating the love of that art is a step, but you have to go further. You have to go further. And she wants to make sure that we are willing to get our hands dirty when we say we want to truly collaborate with the audience. She wants them to be a part of the actual vision making. Like, are they in at the ground level? Are these people a part of the conversation before you say, I got this great program that I'm doing. It's amazing. How can we get you involved? Because that's the backward step, y'all. That is a backward step. And we have to do a better job. And the way that she goes after, she says this. She says, the process of engaging, educating, and motivating diverse communities to participate in a creative, entertaining experience as an important partner in the design and execution of the arts. Partner in the design and execution of the arts. So if you're scared and you're worried about reaching out respectfully and you're trying to figure out who can I consult, there are people in this field, so many incredible people who are doing this work who can help you say, all right, reach out to folks like Dr. Braxton Shelley out at Harvard, the Dr. Tony McNeil, Dr. Eugene Rogers, Felissa Barber, Nicole Robinson, Derek Gay. The list goes on and on and on. There are so many people. If you look at these institutions and you start Googling, using the Google machine to find out who's doing this work, talk to those stakeholders first and figure out ways that you can do this in a respectful way. I haven't been looking. Sorry, I got on my preaching soapbox. I have not been looking at the questions. Let me make sure. Anyone having trouble with privilege, substitute unearned advantage. You know what, Ken? I'm okay with that. I am 100% okay with that. And Ahmed is watching right now, Ansar Abdullah, and you will get a chance to collaborate with him. I will tell you, he is living it. His ensemble is living it. He was out there when people were experiencing hardships during the riots here in Minneapolis. Ahmed was actually collecting food, delivering it himself. Now, he's embarrassed, and I'm saying this because he's not doing it for the praise. He's doing it because he cares, and he knows that this art form has to be more than just us sitting inside of an audience and singing together. I think we got to sing. I got on my preacher box. I'm off now, but I think we need to do some more singing.
Great. I was just going to come on to remind people that now would be another great time to put some more questions in the comment feed. And so, Tessa, what are we going to sing next? You know, as we move into Lift Every Voice and Sing, this is Justice Choir Songbook number 15. I was so amazed to see National Public Radio release an actual content piece of Douglas's descendants reading his July 4th speech from 1852. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but if you have a chance, please read the entire speech. But I want you to understand why this speech is important. We talk about the national anthem, the Star-Spangled Banner, and people were angry that we were kneeling. Colin Kaepernick was kneeling. And they didn't understand, well, why is this man disrespecting the flag? Colin Kaepernick's cries were not new, y'all. This is from Frederick Douglass in 1852. He says, fellow citizens, pardon me. Allow me to ask, why am I called upon to speak here today? Why have I or those who I represent to do with your national independence? Are the great principles of political freedom and of natural justice embodied in that Declaration of Independence extended to us? And am I therefore called upon to bring our humble offering to the national altar and to confess the benefits and express devout gratitude for the blessings resulting from your independence to us? I say it with a sad sense of the disparity between us. I am not included within the pale of this glorious anniversary. Your high independence only reveals the immeasurable distance between us. The blessings in which you this day rejoice are not enjoyed in common. The rich inheritance of justice, liberty, prosperity, and independence bequeathed by your fathers is shared by you, not by me. The sunlight that brought life and healing to you has brought stripes and death to me. This 4th of July is yours, not mine. You may rejoice. I must mourn. Now, as we sing Lift Every Voice and Sing, which is known as the Negro National Anthem, I can tell you that I love sitting at Greater Middle Baptist Church and hearing that Hammond B3 start on that intro and watching a room full of proud Black people leap to their feet. They were ready to go. The pride in their eyes and in their bodies as they looked at each other and communicated the words of this song is something I'll never forget. So just like you stand for the national anthem, the Star-Spangled Banner, I need you to stand for the Negro National Anthem. This is Lift Every Voice and Sing. We have a track that Kevin Caprata from the Justice Choir Songbook has basically created a piano accompaniment of him playing it on his keyboard, which was a part of the Juneteenth Solidarity Sing. So this is your first pitch. So Tessa, you want me to play the video?
Play the video.
Okay. The only problem if I do the video, I won't be able to sing because then all you'll hear is me singing. So I'm gonna.
Well, that means you got
I'll sing
to
it.
at least mouth it. You got to at least sing it quietly.
I'll mouth it then. That's perfect. Okay,
Yep,
hold
you
on.
gotta
I'm
at least
gonna
sing
get
it
that going
quietly.
here. All right. Here we go. Can you hear it?
Yep. And there's going to be a gap in between verses 2 and 3. Voice and sing till heaven ring. Come on, His sing Christ, I will sing Christ, let me down out as the falling sea. Sing a song. Sing a song full of faith that the dark night has taught us. Sing a song full of hope that the Lord taught us. Faith rising on the begun. Let us on to victory on. Verse 2, softer. Only the road we trod, we praise Him Lord had died, with us heavenly peace, come on, we have come. Hammond time, God of our weary years. So I would love for us to take a few moments and look at the words of that first verse. Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Douglas, I believe, is talking about that dark past, but the faithfulness that brought all of our Black siblings through one of the worst atrocities we could ever imagine. But then we look at sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. I believe that Langston Hughes still looks at the past and his present when he wrote Let America Be America Again in 1936. But there's a hopefulness to the text while still acknowledging we got work to do. He said, "Oh, let my land be a land where liberty is crowned with no false patriotic wreath, but opportunity is real and life is free. Equality is in the air we breathe." But then he goes on to say, the dark voice responds, "There's never been equality for me, nor freedom in this homeland of the free." So if you are one of those people who are worried about Colin Kaepernick protesting in the late 2000s, 2010s, when did he do it? It wasn't probably not even 5 years ago yet. We need to understand the history is that Douglass was talking about this in 1852. Hughes was talking about it in 1936, and Colin Kaepernick is talking about it now. Somebody put earlier, I want to go back and read that comment. I loved it. Salvatore says, "We whites must be willing to risk sacrificing or seriously fraying familial or friend relationship. We no longer can let racist statements go unchallenged." Thank you for sharing that bit, Salvatore. In our presence, he added a little bit at the end. And I 100% agree that the work that needs to be done has to be done by all of us. So you're probably wondering, like, all right, this Justice Choir thing, like, what is it about? How did it come to be? And I can share a story with you from my time at the fair school in Minneapolis. I got called in to be a last second sub at the fair school. And, you know, I thought I would be able to come in and just do my thing and teach the kids and everything would be great. And I got in and I tried to teach, oh, freedom, oh, freedom. They weren't having it. So I came home, tail between my legs, humbled, y'all, humbled. And I was like, all right, bet, I got you. So I came in with Fine by Me by Andy Grammer. Well, it's fine by me. Nope, they weren't having that either. So I come in with Pentatonics, Cheerleader. They were not having it. They were not having it. And so I said, well, let me throw everything I learned out. My learned studies, my Western studies. And I said, you know what? Let me go back to my Memphis days. And I came across an artist who I have always loved and respected. I found Chance the Rapper's son to Candid. And I remember coming in that day, praying that, Lord Jesus, please let this song inspire these kids to sing. And this one girl who had been trying my life all those other days, her name was Nyasha. She was trying my life. But I came in with Sunday Candy by Chance the Rapper, and those kids exploded. They ran from the risers down to the middle of the floor. They knew 3-part harmony right away. They knew all of the dances. And at that point, it just clicked in my head. I'm pushing this system. While yes, we need to do both and, but we need to understand one size can't fit all. We can't just hold this. If we're creating a hierarchy, this is the cream of the crop. Everything else is less than. That's a problem. That's a problem, y'all. We got to do better. And so watching the joy in those students' eyes humbled me to realize I had been doing it wrong for most of my career. I came in a few days later and I noticed kids were crying in the corner. And I was like, what's going on? And they said, had you heard the story about Nyasha? I said, no, what happened? They told me that this young lady's grandmother was sitting at a stop sign in North Minneapolis and was brutally gunned down in a drive-by shooting. Now, here I am talking about literacy and tone quality and all these things. But this child's reality, her daily existence in North Minneapolis, When we look at that, those are bigger questions that go unanswered. And I was devastated because I felt like I had been wrong, even pushing those things without even trying to understand what can I do to improve their reality? What can I leverage of my own and risk of my own to do better by folks who've been pushed to the margins? So we got an email from the principal a little bit later saying that Nyasha was going to be excused for the rest of the year. And we go a few more weeks. We get to our concert. We sing, "Oh Freedom." We sing "Fine by Me." We sing "Cheerleader." We sing some other songs. We get to the final song, "Sunday Candid" by Chance the Rapper. And I see Nyasha sprint from the audience to go sing with her siblings on that stage. And I went up to her after the concert. "Why are you here?" She said, "Mr. Warren, I just wanted to sing." How many people are out there who just want to sing, but are excluded by the canon, are excluded by our ensembles, are excluded by the way we audition, are excluded by the way we pick uniforms, are excluded by so many things that we might not even process or begin to think about, but they are saying that that's not for me. Because Nyasha looked at me when I modeled on that very first day. She said, "Bruh, why you trying to make me sing white?" I looked at my skin, baby. I'm as black as they come. You got the wrong one. But her question was valid. Is that she interpreted my Western vocal model as this quote unquote trained singer as whiteness. And I'm not saying to discard it. I'm saying to wrestle with it. I'm saying to own up to the fact that, yes, we can have ensembles that can sing whatever you want to sing. You want to sing your Bach, sing your Bach. That's what's up. I'm not saying cancel Bach. But what I'm saying is acknowledge the fact that there are times and ways that we hold choir that exclude people from participating. We just got to be real about it. Let's stop pretending. Let's just stop pretending and be real about that, y'all. And I shared that story with you because I went to my senior pastor at Westminster Presbyterian at the time in an attempt to have him reevaluate the practice of meeting people musically where they are and bringing them to your tradition. I was saying we should meet prospective singers where they are and celebrate that skill, that ability. Let's embrace it. Let's learn from them. There's so much there that we can learn from, but yet we other it. We like to other it. Oh, this is the Sunday, World Music Sunday. Let's now sing our other music. But the senior pastor stopped me in my tracks. He said, "Let's go deeper, Tesfa." He said, "What systemic things are in place that have made a drive-by shooting in North Minneapolis a normal occurrence? How can this church serve in that capacity?" I paused, and basically not even a few weeks later, I was collaborating with Abby Batinas, Andrea Ramsey, Ahmed Anzaldua, and the Justice Choir was born. But I'm here to tell you, an ensemble can exist where we celebrate the canon, but we need to wrestle with it. We need to fight. We need to unpack. We need to learn the historical nature, the context, dig into the text. There needs to be a struggle daily as you look at this music and say, what is happening when I'm making sound? When I'm singing these words, am I harming people? When I'm singing these words, am I excluding people? But we also need to have ensembles where whiteness isn't centered, where we are collaborating with, learning from, and amplifying the reach of folks pushed to the margins. Now, I'm going to tell you, as a part of doing a lot of this Justice Choir work, I'm going to say this work is not easy. We have done some surveys at the ends of events, and I can read you. This is from one of our earlier events. And this was I said, describe a moment of transformation that you've experienced during this Justice Choir event. So we usually go about 60 minutes to 90 minutes. And this woman wrote this. She says, "As a white woman raised in the mostly white Lutheran church, I appreciate Ms. Levy-Pound's naming of the intersectionality of race, gender, sexual orientation, and poverty. I especially appreciated her recognition that race often goes unnamed in the white church. This has been my lived experience. I was hopeful and transformed to hear the eagerness and willingness of my fellow white brothers and sisters shouting about fighting with tools. I am hopeful that my peers will use the tools at their disposal, namely the privilege to use their voices in spaces where they will be heard and received. So if you were to go into Helm's white identity, you can see that that person moved away from that first contact stage, and that person is all the way at the bottom. They're in full immersion and autonomy. They are ready to do the work. Now, I will read you another survey that we've gotten. And this is from a white lady from when we did a Justice Choir event in Detroit, Michigan. She said, I lived in Detroit. I was held up 3 times in less than 6 months, not for my money, but because I was white. I was taking African-American classes at Wayne State. Men and women in my class threatened to cut me from my C word to my ass. I went to a black church and had members tell me about how I wasn't good enough or black enough to be there. When I was young, I wanted to be black. I was so into civil rights. So was my mom. Now, this person, after experiencing 90 minutes of us singing for justice, this was their written response. So people are entering this conversation at different points. We have to be patient and we have to be hopeful. And as we get out of here and sing this final number, I remain hopeful. As I mentioned earlier, my childhood pastor at that Black Baptist church, Greater Middle Baptist Church, Dr. Benjamin Lawson Hooks, who was the former executive director and civil rights leader of the NAACP. He instilled a fervor in his work in all of his congregants. And even as that little chubby black boy sitting in the back pew next to mama, I can still remember one of his sermons. Dr. Hooks delivered a long and powerful message on justice and kindness until the apex of his sermon erupted in song. That man's rich and dulcet baritone crescendoed mightily over Greater Middle Baptist Church that day, y'all, igniting the entire congregation into an extemporaneous delivery of "We Shall Overcome." We stood, we swayed, we held hands, and in that moment, in that singular moment, our souls were united by the healing spirit of song. Through musicians and creatives like y'all, I truly believe that we shall overcome someday. Let's open up the Justice Choir Songbook number 36, We Shall Overcome. Basses and tenors. Go. We shall overcome. We shall overcome. We shall overcome someday. Oh, deep in my heart, I do believe we shall overcome someday. Let's sing it one more time, basses and tenors. Ready? Go. We shall overcome. We shall overcome. We shall overcome someday. Oh, We shall overcome someday.
Great. Thank you, Tesfa.
Oh man, thank you so much for allowing us to to have this space and connect just for a moment. And I got some time to answer some questions. I know we were supposed to have some more questions, but the spirit was moving. I got a little bit preachy, so I apologize for that.
No, what's been great is I've seen, watching the comments here, a lot of choral conductors from across the country joining in on the broadcast. And, I think we're all here to learn and to enter into this discussion with you. And I think you've given us some great things to think about. And, maybe you could tell us, I think Emily has a slide ready here in the background. Where can we, if people want to learn more about the work you're doing, where can they find you?
StOlaf.edu, and at the Justice Choir, StOlaf.edu or justicechoir.org. I think you put the website up, but please reach out in the development in the coming years to create a Music and Social Justice Institute, Summer Institute at St. Olaf. That's a part of my plans over the next 2 years, is to get that up and going by summer of 2022. So if be on the lookout for that, and would love to have people participating in that.
Great. And, just, again, wonderful to have you here today. We're going to just give folks another minute to ask any questions if they have them there. We can see them in the live comments. But just wanted to remind folks, Tesfa mentioned a couple times Ahmed Ansaldua, who was one of the founding members of the Justice Choir. And as you said, he's living it. Yes. Ahmed started his ensemble here in the Twin Cities called Border Crossing, which is looking at kind of transversing the divide between audiences and repertoires, and has really from the first day really done that with great intention and integrity, and as you said, just not looking for the adulation, but for because it's the work that he's living, which has been very inspiring to me as one of his former teachers, and also now his colleague. It's just been really wonderful to watch, and I can't wait for people to share that with next week. So let's see, we have a couple. Thanks. David Meneke says David is another choral conductor here in the Twin Cities. Fantastic. Another tenor. How many tenors do we have? But yes, this has been recorded. Last week's session was recorded as well, and they will be live on available on the YouTube pages of both the Mendelssohn Choir and the Oratorio Society of Minnesota. So you can go back and watch the whole thing.
And so Ed asked the question, is like, masters of works. I mean, we can challenge that phrase, masterworks by German composers like Wagner and Orff, ties with Nazism. It's like, if the text is specifically, and I don't know what you're referring to specifically, but if the text is specifically hateful to any group and harmful to any group, we shouldn't be performing it. Like if you see people performing minstrel songs or Stephen Foster music now, for every minstrel song, there's a spiritual you can program. So if you, I don't know what text you're referring to specifically, but if it is hurtful text, it shouldn't be performed. But we mentioned in the article that was published earlier, like, wrestle with the fact that some of these composers were tied to some problematic things, and acknowledge it and bring that to the forefront. Collaborate with some synagogues and figure out from the ground floor, how can we do better as a classical organization if we're presenting Orff or Wagner? What can we do? Are there other things that we can pair with this performance of whatever piece you are considering to be problematic? And that would be the way to go about handling this. So thank you for that question, Ed.
And certainly from the, Tesfa, from the educational, from the academy, those are certainly things that you and I can do and with students, is to, ask those questions and have those discussions around those things. So, yeah, which is always a great way to kind of delve into the issue a little deeper. Let's see, Mary Colleen Sipe, she's the chorus manager of the Mendelssohn Choir. She says, she's just commenting here.
It's easy to build strong children in prayer. Ooh, that's a sermon right there. I saw Caleb was on here earlier saying that's a whole sermon. That's a whole sermon right there. It is easier to build strong children than to repair. The meaning, there are some people out here where if you know that they're entering this conversation, you just might not be able to get through to them. And you might not be able to make space for them. If those people, if you feel like are not feeding your energy the way that they need to feed your energy, if they aren't being respectful of people in your life, I can tell you I am in an interracial marriage. I am married to a Jewish woman, and we have a little Jewish and Ethiopian princess upstairs. Her name is Aida. And, you know, if we have family members in our life who were not ready to make space for us in that capacity, well, sometimes conversations ain't it, y'all. And we just got to acknowledge that. I'm not advocating for siloing off at all. I am advocating that you got to do the work. But you also, as you do this work, and this often goes unnamed, self-care. Let me repeat that. Self-care. This work is taxing. It's so taxing emotionally. If you are living this work day in and day out, it is brutal. So if you feel like you need to try to make space for everybody at the expense of you and your family, that's a mistake. You got to do what's best for you and your family and take care. Take care of yourself. So that's some advice on that one if you have to deal with some folks.
Great. Well, just looking at the time, it seems like our comments are dying down. But Tesfa, I just wanted to say, you know, from the bottom of my heart, thank you for sharing all of that with us today. And I look forward to continuing these discussions with you. And I know that these are things that we'll be discussing in the Mendelssohn Choir and the Oratorio Society. And I know from our friends, choral directors who've joined us as well, the discussions that are happening on a regional and national level. So again, thank you so much. I just wanted to remind everybody of next week. We'll be on at the top of the hour, 8 Eastern time, with Liz Stevens, soprano, doing a half an hour of vocal coaching. And then at the bottom of the hour, 8:30 Eastern or 7:30 Central, Ahmed Ansaldua doing a session on Latin American choral music. He has given us lots of resources for that ahead of time. So if you wanted to take a little bit of a listen or a look into that at both the Oratorio Society of Minnesota website and the Mendelssohn Choir website, those are available. And also just reminding folks, if you feel so moved to help support this content, to please considering making a donation. All of these events are free and open to anybody. So invite your friends who you think might be interested in these. Again, there's no need to pre-register, no need to sign up. Just come with us on Wednesday nights for the next 3 weeks now. And you can get more information or donate at the sites you see listed below. So Tesfa, do you have one parting words before we say goodbye?
Well, parting words,
Yep.
but I want to acknowledge Amy's question. For those of us teaching and working with future educators, if hip hop rap, Adam Cruz, this brother is at the University of Illinois, his entire study and work, Adam Kruse. If you're looking how to figure out how to incorporate this into your actual practice daily, he is a scholar on this subject area. He's holding hip hop and rap camps. Embrace your inner Chance the Rapper. Dig into Kendrick Lamar. There's a reason why Damn won the Pulitzer. There's a reason. I open my first class of music and social justice every year with the song For Free. And that always starts a bigger conversation. So if you are interested in figuring out how to incorporate rap and hip hop into your standard curriculum, look up Adam Cruz, University of Illinois. He has some great articles that are peer reviewed online as well. So you can probably find that by searching your school's database.
Great. All right. Well, everybody, thanks for joining us this week. Tesfa, it's been great to have you. And we'll see. I think I owe you that drink at Bourbon Butcher, right?
Hey,
That's our
you better believe I'm going to get a good bourbon when we go.
I'm going to hold you to it. So
I'm holding you to it.
So hopefully we'll have that real soon. But again, thanks a lot. And thanks to everybody for joining us this evening. We'll be back on next week at 8 o'clock Eastern, 7 o'clock Central with another voice lesson and another discussion, this time about Latin American choral music. So thanks to everybody. We look forward to seeing you then. And again, invite your friends, and we'll see you next week. Goodbye now.
Bye-bye.